Hey everybody, how's it going? I've spent all of this morning putting together my indoor turbo trainer setup. Haven't used it for ages, and I felt like now was about the right time to crack it out. And I thought by showing it to you, it would also encourage me to use it a little bit more, because to be really honest, going outside getting wet and dirty on the road doesn't really motivate me like it used to. First things first, I genuinely believe a turbo trainer setup doesn't have to cost that much. All of mine's been given to me by the team through Saris. However, for years and years and years, my turbo trainer setup consisted of a £50 second-hand turbo trainer and a £20 fan off the internet, and it was absolutely perfect, and you genuinely do not need more than that. Of course, spending loads more will give you more options of things that you can do with it later, but if you really just don't want to spend too much money at all, don't have to. The most important thing for any indoor trainer setup is a fan. Mine did not cost very much at all. It was under 20 quid. That was years and years ago. It's got 3 settings. What more do you need? The bigger, the better. The more air you can get over yourself, the better you're going to perform whilst riding indoors. If you can't get your hands on a massive fan, then putting your bike and your turbo trainer in front of a big window for ventilation is going to help as well. But nothing's going to be quite like having that air forced over you. If you're me, the second most important thing is going to be a little bit of music, although I'd normally choose to listen to my headphones just because music is a big motivator, helps pass the time, helps give you something else to focus on rather than just the pure pain of pedaling away on a turbo trainer. If you're going to be indoors on a bike, hydration is most important. Water's probably not the best thing to hydrate yourself, although that is what I usually use. And a towel. Even though you've got a big fan, you're still going to sweat a lot. So mopping it up, keeping things nice and clean is pretty important as well. And my indoor trainer space is not huge, and it's shared as my bike storage space and also like core stability and that sort of thing as well. So it's only 2 by 2 meters in here, and I've managed to cram loads of stuff, even with the bike on the rocker plate. All you need is a little mat next to your turbo trainer setup. So 2 by 2 meters is probably more than enough space for that. It's just something that means your back's not going to be digging into the hard floor when you're doing certain things, or your elbows or your knees, that sort of thing. It's going to make it a little bit more comfortable. I need to get the weight up here as well. Haven't yet done that. And at some point, I actually need to make a start on it. Otherwise, I'm never going to be fit enough for next year. I mentioned before that I genuinely believe you don't need to spend an absolute fortune on an indoor trainer setup. I say that because I never did in the past. I've only used this because I've been given it by Saris and by the team. It's the MP1 Infinity rocker plate, or the trainer platform, and it's really cool. I wouldn't say it's like riding a bike outdoors completely. It's slightly different to that. The way that you stand up and sprint, the bike sort of moves the opposite direction to what you would outdoors because of the way your weight's going. So you have to use your arms a little bit more to counteract that, but it makes it a little bit more comfortable. I used it in the spring, early spring, when I first started making videos, and I haven't used it since. It's now got a proper direct drive turbo trainer mounted to it as well, which should make sprinting indoors that little bit easier. And I touched on that turbo trainer. That's the Saris H3 direct drive smart trainer. As I said before, I haven't actually used it yet. So hopefully this coming week, I'm gonna finally pluck up enough courage to get on it and dish myself a little bit of pain. And as for the bike setup, again, you don't actually need to use your current road bike. If you go on the second-hand bike market, wherever you live, you can probably pick up a real cheap frame that's no longer fit to be used outdoors. As long as you've got a few gears on the back, that'll give you some options for the certain intervals that you're going to be doing. I know for a fact that most of my friends don't use their normal road bikes on the turbo trainers, just meaning that they can leave them mounted so they can use like an old spare or something they bought and made purposefully second-hand, meaning it's mega cheap and it's just there ready to be used. And if it's there and ready to be used, it's going to be that much easier to fit it into your daily life. I think for me personally, if I had to mount my bike to it every single time, it's just another reason not to do it. You know, take the wheel out. I know it's not a lot, but when you're looking for excuses not to do something, sometimes that's enough. So having something ready to go, even if it's a cheap old steel frame, just 5 gears like I said before, you don't need brakes on it. As long as it's got a rear wheel for certain turbo trainers, pedals, chain, that sort of thing, and away you go. So on that note of things being mega budget and not having to be expensive, again, you don't need to use the online training platforms. You can just watch the videos that are on the internet. I presented some in the past. I know there's loads more up there now, and I've done a few of my own, or will be doing a few of my own in the future. There's loads of reasons why you don't need to spend loads of money on these things, especially if you're not going to be using it that much. But if you are using it loads, then of course you could go and download an online program, while away your hours on that. I generally come out here overdressed, or I will be coming out here overdressed to start with, because I think when you start any sort of exercise cold, it's just going to be that much less enjoyable for those first 10-15 minutes until you've warmed up. So start out with loads of layers on. A base layer is really important, even indoors on a turbo trainer, just because it's going to catch that sweat, meaning you're not dripping it all over your bike, all over your floor. Yeah, otherwise, pair of shorts, summer socks, maybe a little hat to catch extra sweat, and away you go. If you're feeling really vain, you can even get yourself a mirror so you can check out your pedaling, make sure that your saddle's the right height, your position on the bike, things like that. That's actually quite useful for helping yourself get into a nice aerodynamic position or making sure that you haven't got any weird tendencies whilst you're suffering away on the turbo trainer. Generally speaking, I'd mount the mirror directly in front of you. A turbo trainer can be a mega efficient way to cram in a little bit of extra training or a little bit more intensity, but it's definitely not for everyone. If you enjoy riding out on the road more than on the turbo trainer, you definitely don't need a turbo trainer. I'd be quite curious to know how many of you actually use turbo trainers. As I said before, when I was a pro rider, my setup was literally a £50 second-hand turbo and that big silver fan there. In total, cost me under 70 quid. Used a towel, had loads of water and good music, and that was enough to see me through. Let me know what you use down in the comments below, and would you like to see more videos on actually how to get the most out of turbo trainer, maybe some turbo trainer sessions, things like that. And I'll see you again out on the road very soon, I'm sure.